because people from all around call him to ask him shilas about kashrus, because we might not, as I always say this story, we might know what the halacha is about different parts of the chicken and about basar b'cholov, but we don't know hands-on. We don't go to plants, and we don't know what is a residue from basar and cholov and all these fancy stuff. Rabbi Nathanson, Baruch Hashem, has both, has the knowledge and has the hands-on knowledge. So throughout the year, he's really a sought-after person who people turn to ask kashrus questions. And in my family, there's a joke that even though there's a lot of rabbis in the family, people, the Rebbitzins in the family say, "My dear husband, we're not asking you. We're going to ask Rabbi Nathanson. He knows better." So it's not even it's not my family. Even my shviger Shalom, her husband is a Rosh Yeshiva. She said we got to ask Rabbi Nathanson. Rabbi Reichik, all the Rebbitzins call him for the answers, because that's the plus of being a nice person, first of all, and being involved in hands-on stuff. So if it's all year around, of course, Pesach, Rabbi Nathanson, before you get to answer questions, when does your Pesach season start? For us, it starts Shloshim Yom Lefnei Chag. But when does your Pesach season start?
About a year and a half in advance.
A year and a half in advance. Could you tell me why a year and a half in advance do you have a Pesach issue?
Wine.
Okay.
And then
okay, so Rabbi side. Rabbi Nathanson, when I asked him to give the share, first he tried to dodge the bullet, but then I don't take no for an answer. So I hunkered him down, and Rabbi Nathanson told me, okay, let me figure out a date. I'm going to be in Australia for 2 days, then I'm going to be in Honolulu he gave me the half of the map of the world. So he gave us some time tonight. He said, I'm not going to prepare a share. Let whoever wants to shoot and ask questions, that will be the best thing. So Rabbi Nathanson, the floor will be open for all the people who are joining here to ask what they want. And I just want to start by learning a din in Shulchan Aruch. And perhaps maybe before we do the din in Shulchan Aruch, maybe we due to the matzav in Eretz Yisrael, let's do what we do sometimes when the situation gets tough, the tough get going. That's all we have of Baruch Hashem, more than a million here. Let's say a kapitel Tilim. Shir Lamalois, Esa Einai El Haharim, Me'ayin Yavei Ezri, Ezri Me'im Adinoi, Oisei Shemayim Varetz, Al Yitem Lamoit Raglecha, Al Yonim Shemrecha, Hine Lo Yonim V'Lo Yishon Shemei Yisrael, Adinoi Shemrecha, Adinoi Tzilcha, Al Yad Yiminecha, Yoima Mashemesh Le'Yakeka V'Yareach Ba'Loila, Adinoi Yishmorcha Mikol Ra, Yishmor Es Nafshecha, Adinoi Yishmor Tzeisko V'Yecha Me'Yakeva Adoilam. Okay, before I get Rabbi Nathanson, I want to quote a din in Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. The Alter Rebbe says in Siman Tov Samach Tes Seif Hey, and actually one of my students this morning said that his Chabad rabbi quotes it now every year since I taught it to him. The Alter Rebbe says, Lo Yoimar Adam, a person should not say, "Oh, Kama Teirach Pesach Zeh." How difficult is Pesach? If you say that, says the Alter Rebbe, Ki Rasha Ma'uim. What does the Rasha say in the Agada? Ma Avoida Zaislachem. How difficult is this? Says the Alter Rebbe, however, Achshav Ein Ha'ilam Nizarim Bezeh. Today's days, people kvetch a lot about Pesach, unless those those guys who go to resorts and different fancy places. But a lot of people have to schwitz for Pesach. Says the Alter Rebbe, he brings this from the Yerushalmi. The Yeshu Shalom Adalem Schust are those that give them favor for what they're saying. They're chas v'shalom not saying Pesach, the mitzvah is difficult. They're not talking about the carbon Pesach, the mitzvah of the Torah. When a person says, wow, how much chumras a person takes upon himself more and more and more. It's difficult. That ain't Isser B'Davar. To kvetch a little about that, as long as you're not sort of making fun of the actual mitzvah, as long as you're just, it's difficult to be so super careful, that you could kvetch a little. So Rabbi Nathanson. with that in mind, what are the biggest issues that you find that there is a difference between many isurim that you go to check to make sure that the items are kosher? What turns it up a notch? Because in the halacha, it's actually in many ways it's even easier because chametz all year round is gar kosher. It's only 7 days a year, 8 days a year that we don't eat it. So it's a tarubas of it. Most of the times it's tarubas heter beheter. But what do you find most difficult for chametz and Pesach? And then I'm just throwing out a general question.
So I found that over the years we're doing less and less special productions for Pesach. It used to be the first week in January, everybody had to do something for it, and now we see much less. I'm not sure why, unless the Hamish have just taken over that market, and you're not seeing lots of regular products anymore. The biggest problem with it was beating into everyone's heads the procedure of how to set up. And it's much, the more hashgakas you have on it, the more difficult it is. So I don't know how others work. I know how I was trained that when you walk into a factory to do a Pesach production, first thing that you want to do is clear out everything that you're not using for that production. Nothing should stay there. That's incredibly difficult. You get resistance from the mashgichim, resistance from the factory. No, it's just in the corner. We're not going to use it, back and forth, whatever. I don't know how to make it any simpler and say nothing in the room that we're not using bedavka for this. And a couple of years ago, we actually had a production with 3 hashgachas, and told make sure you clear. Yeah, we cleared everything out. Everything meant everything but the stuff against the wall, because that's the other side of the room, and they didn't want to move it out. And lo and behold, it was a margarine production, and they grabbed the wrong emulsifier. So I asked our mashgiach after it came to light, how did you manage to mess this up? You had simple instructions. The boxes are marked. I said, no, there are 3 of us here, and the other guy said he checked it. We're not paying you to rely on the other guy. We're paying you to do your job. The kumdais from it is that even the OU could not come up with a heter to say why it's mutter. So the company is really stuck because the Pesach margarines have cottonseed oil. You can't blend that into regular sticker products because it's not labeled. You can't use it for Pesach because the emulsifier is not Pesach thick. And they were sitting on like 40,000 pounds of unusable product. And everyone's pointing the finger at everybody else. It's your fault. It's your fault. Your fault. It's
okay. Rabbi Nathanson, you hit a very soft spot here. Sore spot.
What happened?
Cottonseed oil.
We're letting Kosher Mishpat over here too. What happened?
He wants to answer for it.
So the company wanted to try to push the OU to pay for the value of the goods, and the OU pushed back that your guys did the mixing. So the last set of hands on the ingredient was your employee who didn't put in what he was supposed to.
But the company doesn't lose. The company could sell it to on the Kosher market, right? They don't lose on that.
It sat in the freezer for 2 or 3 years, and I don't know what happened afterwards.
Okay, so let's cottonseed oil. You want to go to Mistama Kitnius, right? Could you elaborate a little about Kitnius and say where people are not aware where there's Shilas and Kitnius?
Okay, so cottonseed is one of those products that nobody agrees on if it's Kitnius or not Kitnius. The Litvaks generally say that it is Kitnius, and the Chabad says that it's not Kitnius. And Badafka, the oil that you see from under Badat's Crown Heights, is cottonseed oil. It's health-wise, it's probably the worst oil on the market for you. And
did you see the doctor shake his head? The doctor, the second you said Dr. Grossman right there.
Yeah, it's it's horrific. You wonder why they allow it, but one of the reasons why that we hold that it's not kitnius is that as much as every university in Texas has tried to make product with cottonseed, it doesn't work. Usually most of the products come out toxic. So the oil is an edible oil, and the flour you just can't do anything with.
Okay, so could you expand a little on the kitnius? What items are, like you just brought a gray area? Some say this. What items people are not aware that might be a shy?
Rabbi Willem, just to understand what's going on over here. Is Rabbi Nathanson a OU rabbi or he's a Chabad rabbi?
He's a Chabad OU rabbi.
I don't know when he speaks about kidneys, is he referencing Chabad or he's representing the Litvaks from OU?
You want to answer that question, Rabbi?
No, I'm just confused. That's
so OU accepts cottonseed oil as being kosher to Pesach.
Okay. Do you want to expand a little on the kitnius?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
What are items that people happen that it's a question of what other items could be kitnius issues?
My understanding was that in Chabad they hold kitnius as mamish chometz.
Yeah, but
they're more machman.
We're Ashkenaz and we don't eat kitnius, right? But it's not chometz. It's clearly not chometz. So you wind up treating it differently if it gets in something by mistake.
So what
have kitnius mutter for a chayla. It's hands down. Everybody agrees on that.
See, the problem I think is that nobody knows why kitnius got assered to begin with. No one has a copy of the Pesach, so you're not going to know. So if you're going to say that the kitnios were assered, then there's a question of the derivatives of kitnius, the oils of kitnius. And I know that from my grandfather that this controversy went all the way back to Rav Kook, and when he matir sesame oil one year in the yeshuv, and the locals went wild and they were putting up signs all over the place, velo v'shem and kick. They were they were opposed. So this is a problem. So whether you have derivatives are usable or not.
So it's a question whether a yaisimi kitnius, if that falls into, how far into we don't use it does it fall? It's us or it's not us or this, that. It's
okay, but which items could you shock us, telling us, you might not know that there's questions of kitnius?
Well, some hold that quinoa could be a question of kitnius. There's some that hold that canola, which nobody uses Pesach, is a shayla of kitnius or chametz, depending who you ask.
Why might there be even chametz?
Because it has to do with how you gather it, how you store it, and also which country it was grown in. In parts of Peru, they have issues with birds coming to eat the quinoa as it's growing, and their solution is to put oatmeal on top of the plants to keep the birds off, because the birds don't like the oatmeal, and then it rains, and now you have wet oatmeal all over the quinoa. It doesn't happen everywhere. Not all the growing regions do this, but I spoke to a buyer who told me he was boots on the ground, and he said, hands down, that's what he didn't know anything about Pesach issues. He just thought it was interesting that, how do you keep the birds off the crop? You cover it in oatmeal. So it's one of the reasons why, all people also like to be mlabed chus. Like, why do I have to pay double the price if I already decided I'm eating quinoa on Pesach? Why do I have to pay double the price for their Pesach ones? Let me get the regular quinoa. Yeah, but So that's one issue. The other issue has to deal with these specialty grain guys. If they're not making a Pesach run, they don't clean up 100%. And you'll get other grains that they deal with, including common sticky grains, mixed in. And then that's a little disappointing when you're cooking Pesach.
Very nice. Anybody else? Anybody want to start asking questions, or I'm the only one?
You see now, since for Kolana Chachamim, Kolana Nevonim, we're all a high-level group here, so we could ask the Shaila that if we were worried about the oatmeal that fell on the quinoa, or something like that. So by the time you get it, it's yavesh b'yavesh. And let's say the small amount went on a big crop. So we would think that that's before Pesach, it's bottled, because yavesh v'yavesh is bottled barov, heter beheter. But as Rav Nathanson just said, that would be just fine. But the problem comes up when you cook it, because now you're gonna now make it lach, and now you're going to reactivate the Yisr, and now it's going to be Asa b'mashehu, and that becomes the halachic problem.
That's if you cook it on Pesach.
That's right.
If you cook it before you Pesach.
Yeah. Now we're going to ask the Rav, what happens if you cook it before Pesach?
Okay. What other items do you know? What other items do you know? People are not, don't pay attention that there might be kitness. I know that in baby cereal, isn't in formula, there's kitness.
There are some of the kitness, a lot of them are common sticks. You really have to take a look at the published list where they talk about what's in them. You know, the most scary thing is when someone says, what could be wrong with? Yeah, a lot could be wrong with.
Like?
Some of the rice cereals,
yeah,
the same hot equipment where they do oatmeal, not so geschmack.
Right.
Okay,
that is when we talk about kidneys. For somehow kidneys takes us all over the place. Tell us about surprising things that have chametz, real chametz. That some products that maybe keeps the food together, whatever, that has chametz, and it's a big no-no.
Stuff that you would think would be Pesach thick and has chametz.
Something. I mean, maybe we became accustomed not to eat it, but we don't even know why we don't eat it.
Wow, that's tough. I got a great example that I can't tell you.
You got a great example, but you can't tell me.
There's a product. It's not certified for Pesach, and someone from Eretz Yisrael decided they wanted to buy it, and they tracked down where it's made, and I was mashgiach, and they said it's pure blank. Right. So I can give it to my kid Pesach because they can't have regular stuff. No, you really can't. Why? Because part of the process is they add oatmeal into the product, cook it, and then they remove the oatmeal. It gives it a smoother texture. So it's not in the final product. It's not on the label. On this Agav Dick, just because I'm a bit of a not nice person, I have an issue where everyone going out to buy, the cheapest matzah on the market. My issue is you see lots of shmura matzah on the market now with Farshidna Rabbanim, and everyone's harav going, I've based and I've this, I've that, or whatever. And when you start looking, like, where do these guys learn the business of making matzah? Open a Shulchan Aruch, you learn, it tells you what you can do and what you can't do. The practical end of it doesn't always work out well. Like, how do the guys learn? You open a matzah bakery, and okay, you made a mistake the first 2 years, whatever. I'm very biased. I think you should buy shmura matzah with hashgakas where the people or their reputation that they've done this long enough, they learned under somebody what to do. It's like when you take a shaykhid who learned, Shulchan Aruch, and that's kind of where it stopped.
You're saying the fifth chelik is Shulchan Aruch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shachid is good for the 9 days.
Very good. Okay, Aaron, it's your turn. Aaron.
Okay. So I have a bunch of questions about products such as dish soap, toothpaste, and in particular, I would prefer to use a fluoride-free toothpaste, and there are some in my family who prefer to use fluoride toothpaste. But various cleaners and all of those things. And I know that there's these are things that to some extent you could say, well, it's not really food, and but I really don't feel comfortable about putting it in my mouth or using it in my kitchen.
Okay. So first off, Shalom Aleichem, how are you? Haven't seen you in a long time.
Good to see you, Reuven.
So
Reuven and I learned in yeshiva together many, many years ago.
Oh,
my standard answer is I wasn't this fat and I wasn't this gray. But so for that type of toothpaste, why don't you just play Old American, buy baking soda and salt?
Make my own. I never did it.
but the question is, why do you have to? What's in toothpaste?
You don't have to. So toothpaste is one of the annoying things that you see on all the Pesach lists, where they write, these, 15, 20 brands, whatever. Comments free. Okay, it's comments free. God bless. They're not saying that it's kosher.
Right.
Right. But it's not.
Somebody just texted me. He wants to know the recipe to make his own toothpaste.
Google is your friend.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of salt and baking soda. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was never interested. My sister does that. I'm not that interested. But it's something that's been around since like the early 1900s or before. So I'm sure you can Google that. So anyways, the toothpaste, a lot of them have glycerin in them.
And glycerin is not a shiloh of chametz. Glycerin is a shiloh of tarfus.
Just tarfus, right. So either it can be made from coconut or it's made from animal fat. Procter & Gamble made a promise to the OU that they will not use animal fats in their U.S. consumer products. So things like Gleam, Crest, I believe those are the P&G brands. At least you know that if it says, comments free, that you're not putting animal fat in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I think because of Pesach, there's more emphasis on the toothpaste more than anything else, because it's one of the things you actually put into your mouth. The other items you're not putting into your mouth, so people are more makbid. But he's asking about everything, shampoos and soaps and all that.
Right. So
OU has, I think, a hefzer on Tide on laundry detergent. No.
That was one of the earliest hashgachos was Tide, because people used to wash their dishes with it. That's why they got the hechsher. So, out here in the West, where we're try to be nice to people, we normally direct them to the Chicago Rabbinical Council website, crcweb.org, and they have their medicine letter. And in that medicine letter, it basically says that all shampoos, no matter what's in it, you can use. Shampoos, creams, it's a whole shopping list.
But I know there's a lot of creams, and the women right before they look through the list of what they have to hide.
Right. So this list is much more medical, and the Chabad Rabbanim out here are okay with it. you can always be more machmir. It's like early on when I was in Kosher's, the person that was training me said, "Let me guarantee you, no one ever called the OU looking to find a chumrah." So,
Yeah.
But do you, so let's say you wanted to find a detailed list. Where would you go?
so if you wanted something that's mamash certified for Pesach,
Yeah.
so you can either go to oukosher.org/Passover and search toothpaste. You'll get a list of what's been certified for Pesach. Or if you're anywhere near a Hamish store or the kosher store, they all have these awful products from Israel that are with B'das Yerushalayim and who have you guaranteed kosher Pesach, and nobody wants to finish the soup.
Rabbi Nathanson, is there any products from Hawaii that are
David, you can't speak without putting on your camera. I'm just kidding. He knows you from Hawaii. He says you come to Hawaii often.
Yes.
I don't think we've ever met, but I've definitely heard your name. So is there any products coming out of Hawaii that's kosher LePesach?
Not
Besides
retail.
for pineapples.
Not retail.
Not retail. Got it. Is there any products in general that actually is kosher LePesach that we may think that isn't?
From Hawaii?
In general.
There's some canned products that, depending on the year, really have nothing added to them. A lot of this doesn't get very good play in Chabad because we tend, to shy away from things that are made out of the house. The normal phone call starts, "Hi, we don't use any products except," and every family has a different exception list.
Right. But okay. Fair enough.
No, yeah.
Boom.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi Nathanson. Somebody surprised me recently and informed me that there could be a problem with cigars and the glue in cigars. You've heard such a thing?
Well, tobacco in general, cigars, cigarettes, clearly have, hundreds of things tossed on them. Sorry, they're upon them, God knows what else. It clearly could.
Now he's asking about chametz.
Yeah, so you'd have to go to each, cigar manufacturer and try to get them to tell you what are they adding to their product, which they probably don't want to do. It's like, what makes theirs special?
Okay.
But
Yaakov,
yes,
you want to
that
ask
would
a
be an
question?
issue. Vaping is generally considered an issue because of the flavors and the other chazrai that's put into that. Want another pet peeve? I have more pet peeves. This is my therapy session. There's a strong preference nowadays for people to use a lot of non-revolutional wines, higher end non-revolutional wines. So if you should have company at your Seder, you should have non-from company at your Seder that would be somewhere. It's a real issue how to deal with that in a way that's not socially difficult. So first off, the Alter Rebbe, unlike the Mishnah Berurah, does not see an advantage to non-revolutional wine for the arbitration. And if you're, even if the guy says, okay, I pour all the wine myself for all my guests, very nice. That works for the first cup. Now, when you got to fill the second cup, if the person's not Shomer Shabbos or Shomer Kashrus, and you want to fill their second cup with non-reversible wine, if there's wine left over in their cup and you pour non-reversible wine on top of that, not only is their wine usher, you just blew out the bottle through a thing called Nitzak Chibur. thing we do on one, we don't do on other things, and it's a very difficult pleasure. So I'm biased. I think you should use, if you should have company, you should use Mavushal wine.
On that note, turns out that I have a surprise guest that it turns out to be in the process of gear. Does the same thing apply there?
Presumably, yes. I mean, if they're in the process of gear, they're not Jewish yet.
That's
Right.
right.
So
Okay, somebody asked the question, but he had to run to Myra. You just said a difference between different matzah bakeries. How does a person know? I mean, there's no 1-star, 2-star like a hotel rating. A person has to do a real investigation to find out who he trusts all year round in pastas, right?
Right.
So
it almost boils down to standing in the mikveh and talking to your friends, like who knows who and went where.
So we have Moshe Chaim over there. He's on a train in Japan. He actually does hashgacha. He does hashgacha, but he can't speak. Could you speak, Moshe? He's on a train. He can train in Japan. All right, Chaim, come on, everybody, pop in. I don't want to do Avram. You have no question. Suddenly, you have no questions.
So I had a question about medications. I read something earlier today that the coating on the medication potentially could have an issue, and you have to be very strict with what if there's like a paper coating when you take a pill or something. And then the question became with children, and the children, if they require a certain medication, a certain pill, is it permissible? Or no, you have to be very strict.
Okay, so I learned under the other school of thought, where we try to be very, very makel when it comes to medications. And the Rabbi apparently was also supportive of that. So if it's a prescription from a state licensed health practitioner, which is another way of saying, like a doctor, and it's a pill, we're very makel. If you swallow it whole, especially, hands down, not a problem. One of my hot button issues is that you always read about somebody in New York who was there from, I don't need to take my medication over Pesach because it's a shiloh. The kidney is maybe this, maybe that, and then you find out the guy's not there Shavuos.
That's right.
It's I used to work in healthcare. I went from Reuven to Matir Surim, and it's just a hot button issue for me.
Rabbi, you mentioned whole, but what about if it's chewable? What's the distinction?
So swallowing something whole is not considered derech achila. So there are lots and lots of heterim just to say you're good. Chewables and liquids is derech achila. That's a normal way of eating something. That's more complicated. But again, it depends. Specifics on that should speak to your Rav and your doctor. Can you skip a week? If you can't skip a week and it's a chewable, then you should talk to the Rav about what the story is. It's different if it's something prescribed by a doctor, somebody who's licensed by the state. This is part of, Rav Moshe Struva talks about if a doctor prescribes something, first you take it, and then we'll figure out why it's mutter. They extended it a bit more broadly since the 1940s to include health practitioners, and it Bedafka does not include, my health advisor spent 40 hours on Google and knows more than anybody else. They don't have a halachic status of knowing what they're doing, being a professional.
What about supplements?
Supplements are also very difficult. Everyone asks, is it kosher? You never know. But it's a matter of who prescribed the supplement, and then you should speak to your doctor beforehand. Is it something you can go a week without? Like, I've got some supplements to counteract some of the unpleasantries of medication I take, and I was told, to skip a week's not a big deal. So it's a 1-by-1 consultation, and don't wait until Erev Pesach to decide that, oh yeah, I got to check on this.
I got a question. All the plants are one thing. All the restaurants or whatever that OU gives hashgacha, do they make sure that the Jewish ones sell their chametz and it's no chametz all over Pesach?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, absolutely yes. Not just the restaurants, the factories also.
But it has to be Jewish owned. What do you mean?
Right.
I mean,
So part of the
most of the
application
factories are not Jewish owned, right?
Who owns what? And then they go into the databases needing to deal with the Mechiras Chametz.
What, you have any issues? I mean, any stories to say about chametz over Pesach?
We've lost some accounts over it, where some other agencies will let them produce Pesach, and
Goyish companies, who cares? If the Goyish companies, what's the question?
Owned by Yidden. So some other agencies have different shitas, different heterim that they apply to it, and they say, yeah, it's okay, you can keep producing.
Can I ask a question about kosher?
Sure.
So an oven that you use for chametz, can you kosher it? And some say that you can't. What would be the way to be able to kosher it, if there is a way?
Rabbi Nathanson, the first way to respond to that question is, my father, Oliver Shalom, used to say, in his yeshiva, they used to say, "Vifel cost a par hoisen for a yosim." How much does a pair of pants cost for an orphan? So it depends what kind of pants, and depends how big and small the orphan is. You say, "Could I kosher an oven?" What's the oven made of? Is it oven glass door, metal door? Is it? You have to be more specific.
So generically, yes, we kosher. Now, so how and what depends on the type of oven.
Right.
So you want to be Chaim, ask what specific type of oven you have. Ask.
So it's a metal door. It's a metal door, but it has a window, and because it has a window, it has rubber around the window. So I heard the rubber can be a problem. I heard the window can be a problem, and the door also. There are certain areas where chametz go in, and even if you do a self clean, there are certain things that might still, might not reach the temperature that you want it to reach, and it might still remain certain brecklach of chametz. So is that true? What's that?
Usually around the gasket.
Right.
So what's the way around it?
So most of the Nashim Tzidkaniyos will take a toothpick and go around the gasket to clear out, and then you run the self koshering cycle. Something falls on the door, but
the Nashim Tzidkaniyos, the toothpick doesn't take up the taste, only takes up the shtiklach.
Okay, but the part on the inside of the oven will get hot enough. On the bottom of the gasket that won't, but that's not in the oven chamber.
Right.
In terms of the glass, so the standard answer is you take aluminum foil, start on the outside, go around the glass, and tape it on the outside of the oven so the tape shouldn't burn. And it's the window is covered.
And keep it covered over Pesach, you're saying?
Keep it covered against Pesach, yeah. Usually with a couple
of
layers.
The glass window.
And that will help with the rubber?
Sorry?
That will also help for the rubber?
The rubber on the window? Yeah.
Okay.
Something falls out of your pot or whatever onto the door. So Pesach, you don't want to eat it.
Right. Okay. I have one more.
Usually the oven, the self-cleaning cycle, it'll be hot enough to not be a problem. But what's interesting about ovens today is that the question is where does the oven vent to? In the old days, when the oven used to vent through the back outside of the kitchen. Now, when a lot of the ovens vent upwards, and they vent either onto through openings that are on the keypad on the upper part of the cooktop, or even up through one of the if it's a gas cooktop, over one of the elements. So that becomes an interesting problem of Zaya if you're going to do this, if you have anything that you're cooking inside. But
right. So if you have one oven milk and one oven flation,
that's the best way.
You really have an issue of how the
right.
You have to know how it vents to know if you can actually do this.
Yeah, that's
if somebody's switching the
problem
oven for Pesach and he's not switching the hood, what's he to do with the hood?
So
I always change the filters.
You change the filter, and then for the hood, we normally just cover it with aluminum foil. That stuff shouldn't fall back into your food.
Yeah, because the filters usually pop out, and they are you can get them. They're on Amazon. They're usually relatively easy to get, and I always switch them out in my kitchen.
Yaakov Chaim, you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I do. We're having our children and grandchildren, and so depending on who it is, they have different stringencies with regard to koshering different parts of the kitchen. So my son is a big one on the granite countertops, and so we have these steel plates that we can cook water on, or we take them out of the oven until they start popping all around. And so we do that. This year, I went and we got a new product, which is a paper covering that you put on top of the granite, and so it sticks to the granite, and so you can seal in the entire countertop. So the question is, and my son and I have already had this discussion, and it's a machloikis. So do I have to, before I put on the that paper that encloses the whole countertop, do I have to boil the granite countertop first?
Okay, so for starters, do you normally cook on the granite countertop?
No.
No. Okay. So,
of course not.
So having to put boiling water and then hot metal on top of it, usually where you have something that can cook somehow. Certainly, you want to do whatever's going to make everybody happy, even though you'll be annoyed before Pesach, not to have a problem on Pesach. It's a single layer cover that goes on, or put two? How does it work?
It's a tacked paper, but it seems thick. I haven't used it yet.
Okay.
But it seals
you haven't tried to remove it, right?
Pardon?
You haven't tried to remove that glue off the counter after.
That's what I was worried about.
Well, I know. I was thinking of that also. I can't. So I tell you that, right?
Yeah. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
So there certainly is a mahalach that to at least put boiling water without all the other chazarai on the counter. If you're going to cover it once, just in case the paper tears, then you have what to rely on that things are okay. If you're going to double cover it or cover it after you put the paper down, some people put like a bed sheet or a tablecloth or something just to cover it, for a second cover, or so things don't rip. It's really up to you.
Okay, and then the other question is we had different approaches to stainless steel sinks. And so one year we took a blowtorch and we did it and didn't realize that they weren't properly, that the glue underneath got loosened and the sink fell in. So that didn't work well. So
right, or you pop holes in the sink with a torch.
That we were pretty good with.
Okay.
So how would you go about koshering for a? How would you do it?
So there are many ways to skin that cat. I don't know if mine's the best way, but we usually throw boiling water at the sink and then use a thick plastic liner over the entire sink area, and then use bins, and we don't use water that's Yatsu lettuce.
Got it. I like that.
There's also a recommendation for the, for the disposal in the drain, that you load it up with ice cubes and like Ajax or Comet, and then turn on the disposal with, hot water, and it'd help clean out, the ice cubes with the Ajax will help clean out the schmutz inside, and it'll also sharpen your blades a little bit.
Okay. Thank you.
So besides cottonseed oil, do other oils have issues with? I don't know. Like I know that some families use only a certain type of oil, like Nutella oil. They don't use canola oil or different oils. So besides cottonseed oil, do you see a problem in any other oil?
Well, okay, I'll step on that pile. So the kosher agencies tell you that you can buy any extra virgin olive oil that has a decent year-round hashgacha on it and use it on Pesach. So some of the producers, depending on how the crop came out that year, will use some enzymes to get extra oil out of the olives. The enzymes themselves are not kosher Pesach, but since it doesn't remain in the oil, it flushes out, they say that it's b'diavad okay. So, the alternative is there are producers that Beshita will not use any enzymes, but the oil itself is very expensive. Very expensive.
So, but the oils that are kosher Pesach, do you see a problem with any, like the oils that are kosher Pesach, besides for cottonseed seed oil? Is there any other oil that have different problems for kidneys or other things that you would prefer one style of oil versus another? What's that?
You mean like the walnut oil or almond oil?
Exactly. Yes. Do you prefer a certain style of oil, and why would be the reason that you would prefer that?
I always opted towards oil that I saw being made to know, like what bonehead stunt got pulled in the middle of making that, or. But of late, we've been using just a deathly expensive olive oil because they don't do anything there. They only do extra virgin olive oil. They never use enzymes. They don't mess with other side products or anything else, but it's expensive. There is the avocado oil Chosen brand, when bottled in Mexico, is also okay for Pesach.
Avocado oil Chosen brand?
Chosen.
Who sells that?
Costco.
Oh yeah. Is it, so you're saying that's even better than olive oil?
Than just the generic anybody's olive oil?
No, but olive oil with the OU. OU doesn't rely on this hefty that you just said, that they don't rely on it?
They do rely on it. Everybody relies on it.
So the avocado doesn't have any
avocado doesn't, they don't use enzyme in avocado.
The
avocado oil from Mexico, we haven't seen them use any enzymes.
So could I don't want to quote you. You're telling me that avocado oil from Mexico, Costco avocado oil, is the most preferable, most mahudika oil to use now. It's more expensive. Isn't it more expensive than olive oil?
No, less expensive. And it's lighter tasting, but it depends on the brand, because Costco sells a few brands of avocado oil, and not all of them are made kosher Pesach.
Do you want to tell me which one again? Let me. Chosen. Okay.
So even if you have a kosher Pesach from the Badatz or from a different texture, it could possibly be that they used enzymes.
Could be.
Wow.
And
on the theory that the enzyme gets flushed out.
When you say that the Chosen is that's with the OU hashgacha?
It's OU hashgacha.
Do you also provide the hashgacha on the Costco extra virgin olive oil as well? And it's so. Are you saying
Oh,
that
OU
uses
does.
the
I
enzymes?
do not.
Pardon?
It's not me. OU does. It's not me. It's done. You know, it's somebody else. Other oil.
Yeah, but you're saying even the badatzas hechter or anybody who most of the hechsherim that say olive oil is fine are overlooking the enzymes, myself.
No, they all they said it's all right. You know, a lot of the oils with the like Hamish Ashgachas also start off with Yenim's olive oil, and then they bottle it under Ashgacha. But it's the oil's already made.
Mhm. Wow.
So you're saying that the OU Costco extra virgin olive oil, which everybody says is, I mean, it seems that people have been saying it's fine.
Yeah.
But you're saying that would have the enzyme problem as well.
It can.
It can.
It's not every supplier every year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of does your crop need it or not.
Mm.
And the OU, we got a truva on it, and it basically said you shouldn't, but you can certify it.
What else? You want to touch upon OU's policy about Gebrux, or Gebrux is just a Hasidic hang-up?
OU certifies Gebrux.
And do they put on anything that serves anything that has Gebrux ingredients? They write it.
Yeah, it'll say matzah meal.
I'm saying matzah meal.
You could also look in the allergen statement. It should be listed there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yaakov, you wanted to ask a question. Yaakov from Toronto.
Yes, so you mentioned about some of the cheaper shmura matzahs. How does somebody know, like, if it has an OU on it, or if it has, let's say, Chicago CRC? How does somebody know that this is cheaper or better? What's good?
Right. So those OU, okay, Chicago, but that's Yerushalayim. These are people that have been in the business for a long time, and they know the ins and outs. It's more the ones that have, this Rav in this city doing it that I raise an eyebrow at. I'm not saying that he's wrong. I just like, how'd you get there?
For example, over here, the cheapest matzah you can find in Canadian dollars, like $18 a pound, which is like $13 US. You could find it has a Chicago CRC on it.
Wow.
People are wondering, is that
should be all right. I mean, they're an upstanding organization.
Yeah.
How much is Montreal matzah this year?
$48 a pound, something like that.
Nice.
47 or 48. That's right. That's Canadian dollars. So that's was about
Still.
38, 36 US. Yeah.
I heard there's somebody in California that's trying to break the market. He's selling matzahs just because it's getting out of hand. He's selling it below half price for people to try to, like the times of the Chazal speaker when the going were selling fish for expensive. So anybody else? Aryeh Goldman, you have any questions to ask? You're usually good with good Shvara Kashailas.
Nothing offhand, but thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. You don't have any, Rabbi Nathanson, you always have a nice story with with a twist hit, like something that happened to you. What happened to you lately? Surprising.
Lately it's been pretty quiet.
No surprise Hechsherim issues.
Happily not. I mean, dull and boring is the best thing we can possibly have.
Yeah.
Chaim, you want to say something, Chaim?
I guess I have one question, and thank you, Rabbi, for doing this. In general, around dedicated coffee utensils, what are some of the things to keep in mind?
I'm glad you brought that up. Yes. So I'm already on the hit list for a lot of retailers in New York, because when the OU changed their policy on instant coffees, that they're not all good for Pesach. Guess who's behind that?
Start again. So what was their policy? What was changed?
Used to be that they said all instant coffee is okay. Now they tell you it needs to be on their list because we found some of the guys that are spray drying coffee were spray drying coffee blends, cheaper ones that included maltodextrin as a filler when coffee prices got very high. So maltodextrin
What was that? What is it?
will be either corn or wheat. So they went through a whole thing to figure out which suppliers don't do that, and then let them be on the list for Pesach. So there's a new trend in specialty coffee, which is infused coffee. So flavored coffee, you roast the beans, grind it, and then you add the flavoring. Not a problem. Infused coffee, you take the green bean, which is the unroasted bean, and you soak it in something. That something, the popular items are yeast. Not all yeast is kosher. Not all yeast is kosher to Pesach. And, whiskey and bourbon. So if you soak your beans in bourbon, Machon, for a couple days, and then you go roast your beans, that roaster is not exactly Pesach thick. So if you're going to buy from one of these higher level coffee companies, you should at least for this year at least check their website, see if they have infused coffees, and if they do, then if they have hashgacha, they should separate the Pesach list from not those, and if they have a separate dryer or whatnot. Just it's something to look into. One of the places I go to in Hawaii started doing that, and the Mazel Tov, they do the infused on a separate dryer because it's smaller batch. So we were able to keep a number of items Pesach thick, but the other even plain coffees that they go into the smaller dryer because they're not as popular. We removed the Pesach designation. That was a very good point. Thank you.
How about forget about Pesach? What is your take about coffee from any coffee shop? Any good? What red flags are there? I'm not going to name names like Starbucks. I'm saying just to go into. What's your take on just going to coffee?
Into a coffee shop?
Yeah.
So I actually had a very long, hour discussion with Rabbi Fishbane from CRC. We're friends. I read the article that he wrote that's been, spread out through all the lands, and blatantly disagreed with his conclusions and how they came to it. And by the time we finished, he was masking that I had valid points, but it's not CRC policy. Good, it's not your policy because what the hate.
Okay, so now tell us what the different opinions were.
So, first off, Chalav Stam doesn't seem to bother them. It's heter. So a lot of the things they say is okay. I don't understand why it would be all right. So if you go into a Starbucks, they have two types of espresso machines. The newer ones do not have a steam wand. So I don't think that's really a problem. This whole washing business doesn't turn me on. The ones that do have steam wands attached, I think you've made the entire machine dairy equipment. It's a saturated steam. And why is your coffee still part of? Clear that there are others that disagree that say by Eroi it's different how it works out. I don't know. So one of the websites said the best thing you could get if you go into Starbucks is an Americano coffee, which is an espresso and then diluted with water. No, I would never buy
How
that.
about a plain black old-fashioned coffee?
A plain black old-fashioned pour-over coffee, I think you absolutely. Not only do I think you can get it, I buy them and drink them.
The Shkitzer Shulchan Aruch says you shouldn't do it b'kviyos.
You're not consumed.
The Kitzer Shulchan Aruch says you shouldn't do it b'kviyos.
But right? Coffee house to sit down and make it a place because this is where people sat and ate, and you met up with.
No, but besides, you're not worried about kashrus, and you're not worried. But you're worried about espressos and schmespressos. Since when did we become sophisticated people? Why can't we just take a black coffee and that's it?
Okay. Some people drink Reuven. Some people drink wine that's $180 a bottle if someone else is buying it.
So you're not concerned, even with the black coffee, though. Isn't there potentially, like the Rav was mentioning about the fact that with when they wash.
They're washing. I think it's pretty much not that big of an issue, and it was one of the what?
Because of what reason? Because if you're not worried about the washing, this answers a lot of other problems. Gas station coffees, airline coffees.
Right. So they're always concerned, like, well, they wash it with other kalim that had for shitting the food on it. So first off, you don't really want to wash coffee equipment with other things because everything shows up in your cup. But even if you did, soap is a davar paidim. If you look in Teruvos, it talks about washing your milchig and fleishig dishes together in one barrel with basically soda ash or dirt. Why is this work?
Nathanson, you can't catch this group. This group, this is what they do for a living. It's in Basa B'chalav Simon Tzadik Hey Sif Zayin.
Yeah.
You can't pull a quick one on these guys.
Right. So I'm saying, but it says you do it.
The issue is that the Machaber says that the Shach and Taz disagree. This is what bugs us every time we learn it. The Shach and Taz both say it doesn't work, and I keep on saying every time I teach that din, what happens to every hotel you kasher for a chasam?
That's exactly right.
Everybody relies on that.
That's right.
Most poskim defend the Shulchan Aruch, like Shulchan and others. They go with the Shulchan Aruch.
Well, what's with the Shach and Taz? They're not your friends anymore.
Anyhow, so I actually had this discussion at length with Rabbi Reichik al because one of his kids is a big coffee drinker, and he at the end he said he let her drink it, so he felt it was doable. Because
of what?
Because you have a begima there. You're not doing it l'shem yichud kuchabrichu. You're not trying to give hashgacha at these places. It's very different. You can get away with murder on something that where you're not trying to give hashgacha, because then you're just looking at is what the goyim are doing for themselves somehow acceptable to us, as opposed to if you want to give hashgacha on something, then you got to do it right, and you have to do a good job, and you have to be concerned about other opinions that say that this doesn't work. No one's asking you to walk in and give Starbucks a hashgacha.
Yeah, why wouldn't?
In essence, no hashgacha trumps bad hashgacha.
Yeah.
And the part on the shluchim chats when we talk about it, I have to remind them there's no chiyuv gavra to drink a coffee at Starbucks.
Right.
You don't like it? Don't do it.
Noyach, no. You want to take a shot instead of Levi? Levi is Chavrus in Israel. Levi would ask. Anybody else have a question? I'm sure Moshe Chaim is low. Moshe Chaim, how long is that train ride? Where are you going from? Where to where? He does hashgacha in Japan. He's in Japan right now. He lives in Japan.
He also to Tokyo, right?
He lives in Tokyo. Yeah. This is that
bullet train.
He lives in Kobe. It's that.
In Kobe, huh?
I have to change that one. Okay. Anybody else? David Lubin, Rochester. No, I needed this one. It's done. Hey. David. Okay, let me ask a very controversial question. For all those who are going away to hotels, and resorts,
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, 1 minute. Now you gave me some extra time.
Hello?
Yeah, why before choosing a hotel? I know some people who go to a hotel and they choose who's the best caterer, who's going to produce the best tasting food. But what really is what could go on in a hotel, and what could go on in a cruise? before a person makes his vacation plans, you tell us. Give us the good, bad, and the ugly. David, mute your mic a minute. It's gonna get dirty now.
Okay.
No.
The question's for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's impending disaster.
Why?
The cruise lines are horrific at best. You've got.
But they have Hechsher. But they do have a Hechsher.
Yeah, they have a Hechsher, right? I spoke with someone from the Vod of Seattle who used to deal with those boats, and he was a very, very liberal Litvak, believes Kippah Sruga is a religion thing. I mean, it's not he's not Haredi, and he said he would never take that as an option. You got multiple kitchens working off of one boiler feeding the steam to all the kitchens for cooking. Kosher treif, same time. He didn't feel that the steam system itself was pugum. It's just a mess. Hotels where the entire hotel is not kosher Pesach is a bigger problem. Just stuff getting switched around, and going into the wrong kitchen, and a place where you made it all kosher Pesach. Then you're up to the point of maybe. But how did he kosher it? Who koshered it? Did he have enough time? It's not terribly geschmack.
But
there's a Dayan in a Breslover Dayan in Los Angeles who has, Baruch Hashem, a very wealthy congregation, and he told them that I made a cheshbon. You can have someone do all of your shopping. You can have a crew clean your house, cook your Pesach meals, clean up afterwards. You would save a lot of money on what you're spending to go to a resort, and you'd have a kosher Pesach. And
yeah, but
there's no one to have a good time.
Huh?
And the Mitzpah told them they want to go for the entertainment. Not happening.
Wow. But you're saying it's definite issues.
Definite issue.
Wow.
Can I just ask that there's a lot of, I mean, I've heard these concerns before, but like these big hashgachas are giving the hashgacha, and I know the OU, I think I heard that they don't give, and nobody, you can correct me, but I remember hearing last year, 2 years ago, that they gave to no hotel because hotels wouldn't meet the standards. But I'm just curious because
Right.
It just doesn't compute, like we rely on these all the time. They're big, the people who rely on them. Then we hear these concerns. It's hard to reconcile.
Right. So I know CRC did some hotels in Texas last year. I was speaking with the Machon, and from what they said, it sounded like they did a good job. They went all these other kitchens. They're familiar enough with the problems in catering that they knew where to point themselves. They had an abundance.
Well, why are you making the problem bigger than regular throughout the year? It's because chametz is a bigger problem than
chametz is a bigger problem. You can't, once Pesach starts, you find a problem. You don't have many ways to kosher. The Alter Rebbe will let you do, like a Liebman. So they found the wrong silverware in a hotel here, and they were told to put the silverware in the oven on the highest setting to try to kosher it.
And it came out this way.
Yeah, it came out horrible, but at least they had forks. But it's just a mess.
Wow. But it's a mega. I mean, 20 years ago it wasn't like this, but in the last 20 years it's mega. So the only way you go somewhere is if the whole hotel is, and even then it has to be taken over a couple of days before Pesach.
That's right.
For a number of years, we had a group of us that took over a bungalow colony in the Catskills, and we were able to do a good job on it. But you have to have pretty much control over the whole thing.
Right. And then you get into which ingredients are you going to allow.
What's
So I
that
saw
mean?
one place advertises, the Babich Chumras. Do you buy this? Do you buy that? Yeah, because some families allow this, some do that, whatever. It's, yeah.
All right, David. David, you're on now. Dr. Lubin from.
Oh. Hi. The only question I had, I just following up on the oven, kosher for an oven, like a
By the way,
metal oven
David, if you have any more questions when you're going to be in California, you could speak to him face to face. He's going to California for Pesach.
Oh, good. I'm leaving.
Are you leaving?
I'll be in Simcha Barbara by the
nice.
Yeah. Actually, North Hollywood.
Mendel's son became a cousin, right?
Yeah. And I was gonna say, so the kosher's question, is it enough to, like, my oven doesn't have a kosher setting, but if it has like 500 degrees, I scrub it down, like you said, with a toothpick around the gasket, and cover it really well. Is like 500 degrees for like half hour?
No. It's 550 degrees for 60 minutes, 500 degrees for 90 minutes.
90 minutes. Okay.
And the clock starts after you reach temperature.
Right. Okay. Do you need to put like a dish of water to steam it, or
no?
No, just the heat. It's Liban.
Right, and then the accepted Chabad practice is you take a torch and then you go lightly over all the walls of the oven in case something survived, the easy off of Mr. Muscle and the heat, it'll burn right away.
Right. Okay.
We're not in New York. We don't try to do leaving gummer on the walls, and you try not to blow out the thermostat.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else? We are taking away too much of his time.
Yeah, I got one more. If you have folding plastic folding tables that you didn't put hot stuff down directly on, what and you want to use them for where you're going to do your seder and stuff like that. What do you have to do to get them there?
Why don't you just cover it?
Just cover it. That's enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to torch the plastic. I mean,
You don't have to like pour boiling water over them or anything?
No, what was hot that got on it in the first place? On the table itself?
Let's say nothing got directly on it.
Okay, so already you're in good shape. Then I would cover it, I would either do at home, even though nothing got on the tables, we put on 2 layers of aluminum foil and then put a tablecloth over it.
Okay.
It's over.
Is cardboard good? Is cardboard as good or better than aluminum foil?
Sorry?
Is cardboard as good or better than aluminum foil?
I've seen cardboard is or was very popular in Crown Heights for a long time. It was available. You have a very non-flat table when you do that, and stuff just spills all over the place. I don't see, why two layers of foil is. I mean, it's good enough to put into a hot tray oven. Why wouldn't it be good enough for your table?
Okay. If you have a metal table, or kind of a table that may have had hot in it, and use it for food at all, do you have to? What do you have to kosher it? Do you have to do anything with it?
I would clean it, just clean it regular, then 2 separate layers of foil, and then throw a tablecloth on it.
Okay.
The tablecloth is 1 covered yontif. 2, the foil won't tear if it's covered with something that's not going to tear.
Okay.
Okay, Rabbi Nathanson, thank you very, very, very much. I appreciate it. And a Kosher and Freilich and Pesach.
Kosher Freilich and Pesach.
Thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Gesund.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, bye.